Greetings and salutations, everyone. So, this bonus video isn't necessarily like a play view, a walkthrough of any sort here. Somewhere between 11 and 12 parts of the series here, I came up with this idea that why don't I do sort of like a pseudo Q&A session, I guess, just to because there's probably going to be people who are going to wonder how I came across this game, why did I choose this game, and why did I choose to play it, blind, quote unquote. And I thought a Q&A session would probably just be easier to do it as a bonus video. And then it got me thinking, why not just make this a part of all my projects that I do from now on? Just give people a little more insight to what I think about the game. So, I'm naming these bonus videos QuickChange Questions with the Duke. It's a bit of a tongue twister. You could say QCQ. QuickChange obviously being the reference to my favorite badge ever in Paper Mario. It's super useful, and just recently, as you saw in the Paper Mario series, literally we'll get rid of everything just to have that badge. So, the idea is, like, as I go through the series, people can submit questions for the Duke, for the QCQ, that maybe they don't need answered now, but would like to know, once I'm done with the project, what I thought about something. Obviously, there aren't any questions from you, the viewers, that have given me in that, because I came up with this idea, not that long ago, and didn't really introduce it. So, I've had to come up with some of my questions, but hopefully it gives you some insights. If there is a question that you do want to know about this, specifically about what I thought about the game, not necessarily about the Wheel of Time. It's literally no knowledge on that. But if there is a question you want to have answered that I didn't get to answer here, feel free to put it in the comments below, and I'll try and answer that. But we'll start with the first question, which is, how did you come across this game, and why did you play this game? Now, I realize that's actually two questions put together, but hold on, because the answer is related to both of those things. And it's a bit of a story, so you're going to want to be comfy for this one. So, I guess it was probably in the middle of my original Paper Mario series, back in those good days. I came up with this idea of a joke where the Wheel of Time series was based on Journey's song Wheel in the Sky. And that was going to be kind of like a shout out to my mother, who is both a huge fan of Wheel of Time and Journey. And I wasn't really quite sure how I was going to ever put that into a video. I didn't want it to just be like, just kind of this weird random tangent here. I wanted it to somehow fit it all in there. And then, gosh, maybe a year ago, I'd have to actually go and look it back up. But somebody was doing, as part of like a big charity marathon series, somebody was running a game called The Wheel of Time. And that immediately piqued my interest there, because I was like, there's a video game based on the series? And I honestly, I didn't look into it too much. I did try to go find it, see where I could get it and all that. But kind of the reason why I wanted to play this game was to not only show this game exists, but also to actually fit that joke in there. Honestly, the whole entire series was based on the fact I wanted to do that joke that I did. And the whole Part 1 series was fantastic. Probably one of my better works, because it took that joke and just fully elaborated into just complete inaccuracy. That will be forever probably one of my favorite moments, and I will honestly save that video. I'll probably lose the rest of the Wheel of Time series videos in the future, but that video, the first part that I did, was fantastic. And yes, I probably went through, 20, 30 tries of trying to just get that joke correctly in one take. It was beautiful. But that's kind of that. On the second question, I guess you could relate to that is, why did I choose to play this game as a blind playthrough? I guess I wanted to just spice things up a little bit I played a lot of video games, but there are games out there that I haven't played, both not only like popular games that I haven't played either because of interest, but also games I've just never gotten around to, either because I just haven't or never heard about it. And I thought it might be interesting to kind of show off, instead of someone who has a knowledge of a game, just show off me kind of reacting to the situation. It's a little interesting for me to look back on it because I'm typically not a very vocal person when I'm playing a game for the first time. I'm usually sitting down, paying attention to the story, paying attention to everything and all that, and maybe making mental notes on what I think about the game, and then I'll discuss it with later when I'm not playing the game. Sometimes, like, if one of my brothers is playing a game that I am playing, I'll discuss it a little bit with them, but usually not till I've beaten the game do I actually become vocal about what I think about the game. And so it's kind of interesting to kind of change that just a bit and just try to vocalize what how I react, how I feel about it. So it's a little bit fish out of water moments for this video, but I think it was actually a really good series, honestly. So there you go. Next question. How hard is this game actually? So this game is actually difficult in the terms of, like, it's based on sort of the old Twitch shooters, as we would say. It's like, if you're used to playing like modern first-person shooters like Halo, even the Call of Duty series, like, you're gonna be pretty blown back by how, I don't want to say like difficult it is per se, but just how different of a first-person shooter it is. If you're used to playing like the Quake series, I think you'll be at home with this. I'd even say like the Unreal Tournament games back in the days. If you've played those games as well, that you're gonna feel a little bit more at home. But there is kind of a more difficulty about it than is usual that you would see in more modern first-person shooter games. And right off the bat, I have to say, like, the number of weapons, armors, stuff that is in this game is incredible because you can have it all. You can just have it all equipped, and there's no real restriction other than ammo count. It's really weird. Like, let me put it to you this way. Halo 3, probably, like, honestly, what's one of people's probably favorite series of the main Halo franchise, has 35 different weapons. That includes not only, like, the guns and whatnot, but that includes the grenade counts, some of the mounted turrets, and then some of the equipment that they have. Pretty certain the number's 35. Had to do a double check on all that. But you can only carry so much. You can carry 2 weapons, a turret that you walk around with, 8 grenades, and a piece of equipment, which means you're fairly limited on, like, on what you are going to be having with you on your person, so you can switch to a weapon back and forth. In this game, it's 39 different spells, last I checked. It might be a little bit higher, but I'm pretty certain about that number. It's insane, because you can have all 39, essentially, weapons on your person. And so it's really difficult to try to go and pick a very specific one that you want to do in the moment that you need it. Me trying to use, like, the Unravel shield spell that I had was always fascinating to try to get to quickly. It was, I don't know. It's very interesting. It makes sense in the terms of, like, I'm a wizard, I know all my spells. Like, I get that much, but when you have 39 different choices to go through, not necessarily all at once, but I probably had, honestly, usually average like 15 to 20 different, like, spells that I had to know what they had to do. And looking back through, like, the videos, there was a couple spells that I honestly saw one time in the beginning of the game, and then had to remember at the end of the game what that spell did. So it was definitely interesting. It was cute how they tried to word the description of the spell so that you know what they do, but you're really, like, I get it if you've never played like a first-person shooter your entire life, and then you finally like pick up a gun and you're like, oh, what's a scout rifle do? Like, you do have to test it out. Here you had to really test out what the weapon was, because normally I'm fine with like the assault rifle like weapons. That's usually just my standard go-to in first-person shooters. And in here, the weapon name for that essentially is the dart weapon, which is like normally you don't think of dart as being like a pretty just normal all-around weapon. And here it's actually pretty good because dart's actually pretty accurate, and you just hold down the mouse button. It's beautiful. We need that in games more often. But yeah, it's one of those just, I get why they did it, but 39 all at once thing is a little too much. And it can be, as you constantly could see, it could become quite a burden. On top of all that, like, honestly, like, as if I couldn't make this game harder for myself, my setup doesn't really take into account of how I should be playing first-person shooters. Rather than try to explain that, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about, so give me a minute here. Alright, so I had to pull out my old face cam that I was using back in the days. This is that one that I was using even for the beginning of the series here. This was it that I was using. I've got a new one which does better and literally in every single way, but I pulled this out because I didn't want to actually shift the position that I use here. So this is essentially what you're seeing at what's on my table here. What's essentially what's below the microphone here. So my laptop sits over here and covers, this is the halfway point of my little table here, covers the rest of that. I've got the microphone here. This is the mouse for the laptop here. So this is what I'm doing. You can hear this going clickety-click around. And then this is the other mouse, which is for my streaming and recording computer that I use to go and, hit start, stop, and do all the video editing with. And there's no room for a keyboard. The laptop, as you can see, is sitting here at an angle. Helps actually with the room situation and make sure that its vent has a clear line of sight, is able to breathe and all that. So with it being at an angle, like, it's a little awkward for me to try to just play on it in general, since I'm sitting straight and it's sitting nearly a 40-degree angle from me. So what I do is I have a keyboard that's plugged into it, but that has nowhere to go, so I have to play it on my lap. You can see, here's my keyboard. I have to hold it lower, apparently, but that's what I've been playing with, and then I actually just sit it in front of me, down. It's actually at a slope. I've weirdly decided to choose to wear a black shirt and show off a keyboard that is black, but stick with me on this one here. So I've had to play the game essentially with the keyboard in my lap, not something I'm used to. Play with the mouse going around in making sure I'm not hitting the microphone stand, mostly because it'll actually, if I go up against it, it'll click the mouse. So that was always interesting. So that kind of added to the whole difficult part of the game here. I think if I had been able to play this in my little more like natural situation where I'm just playing on my laptop and I've got lots of room for my mouse to go around with, probably change a little bit of the sensitivity options, I think I would do a lot better. But it's still a difficult game. There's no denying that. But let's move on to the next question and get my viewing back to normal here. Alright, so a fun question here, I'm sure, is how many deaths did I go through? Take your time on guessing this number here, because it's probably higher than you think it is. So, even with kind of a decent knowledge of playing on PC games, playing first-person shooter games, the game still provided some good measure of difficulties involved. And there's a couple of videos I'm sure of where I was actually keeping track of how many times I died. But I actually went back through all the old videos I had. Pretty certain I got all of them checked up. There were, I'll say 2 deaths that didn't make it to the final result. Mostly because they happened so fast that I was like, nah, it's not even worth commentating on, honestly. It was just instantaneous death. So whatever number you have, just add 2 to that, and that's going to be your final result. It's possible this number might be a little bit off. It wasn't easy sitting through all my videos looking for specific deaths, especially when the videos I was looking through were the finished products, not the raw footage. But when I sat down, totaled it all up, this is the final number. I have like a whole, made a whole sheet for this, ticked it off as I just kept observing the deaths. And I did include some of the ones where I had to load the game, either because I got, soft locked out of the map, or, maybe I did something wrong and I was like, well, I'm gonna die anyway. So I did include those kind of things. But the final result, 67 deaths. That's right. 67 deaths total in this blind playthrough. And a lot of that probably just has to do with the fact that, yeah, it's a blind playthrough. There's going to be some deaths. Had to kind of learn how this game, operates, as it were. It's just kind of a different beast from the usual first-person shooters that I do play in this game. And some of it required knowing what spells did, knowing what their attacks were. And in some cases, knowing if I had the right shields so I wouldn't die, basically. That was fun. But yeah, it was pretty impressive how many times that I just went down every single time. And most of it was probably that whole middle and end section of the series here. But I'm like, that's a lot of deaths for someone who has been playing games for quite a while. But I think if I replayed the series now, I have a better idea of what spells I would use, what my defenses are, so I don't die, kind of thing. But there's that, and I think that's gonna be it for me. I didn't come up with any more questions, honestly. I think this is definitely an underrated game. It's actually yes, some graphical errors exist. No, wait, hold on, because there is one more question. Because somebody out there is gonna look at this, look at this series, look at this game, and think to themselves, was this game actually finished? It seems there's stuff missing, yada yada yada. And the thing is yes, the game is a complete game. The problem is that it was only designed really to work on Windows Vista. The fact that I got this working on my Windows 8 laptop is actually pretty impressive, because it took some doing. I would load the game and then I couldn't use my mouse and keyboard. That's how difficult it was to get this up and running. But I did learn that there are, in fact, cutscenes in this game. There's a beginning cutscene, there's cutscenes in between levels, all of that. So there's actually some sort of story that's going on here. And apparently there is a fix for it. Didn't really want to mess with it. I discovered it way late in the series anyway, so I didn't want to really bombard anybody with sort of that nonsense. But I did find someone who posted up just the cutscenes for the game on YouTube, and so I have that link in my description box if you're looking into that. I should warn you, that video is an hour long. It honestly, all the cutscenes probably would have added 3 or 4 more parts to my series here just for that alone. So it is a bit of a watch if you're willing to look into it. I didn't feel like it was quite necessary. I might need some water here. Hang on. better. Like, for me, like, there's enough where I'm just like, I know just need to do this. I don't necessarily know why I need to go into the Fortress of Light and all that, but the cutscenes probably go through it. I didn't honestly bother watching. I was like, I don't want to spend an hour just going through it. But if you're interested, go ahead to take a look at that link and see what this game is all about. And that is officially it. I got all the questions. That was the only question I didn't write down. And I meant to write it down. That I was like, no, I did find cutscenes. But I think that is it. I'm hoping QuickChange Questions here will be just, I will remember that it'll always be a thing, but I'm hoping you, the viewers, will also get in on this. So I am going to be doing this for the current projects that I'm working on: the Pokemon Trading Card Game 2, Paper Mario, Thousand Year Door, and Twilight Princess. So feel free to think up of some questions, even if they're basic questions. I don't mind. I feel like I could answer some. If you do have a question about the Wheel of Time series that you want to ask, feel free to also put that in the comments section below, and I'll see if I can answer them or not. But until then, I have another project to start working on. This was a good series, and I hope to do kind of more blind playthroughs again in the future, but we'll see how that comes about. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a good day. Take care, everyone.